Why are you standing to become Copeland's next MP?
Yeah, I'm standing because I'm sort of disheartened by the current state of politics in the UK, I guess, and I've been sort of gradually getting more involved with the Greens since 2015, since the general election, and yeah, this by-election came about with Jamie Reid standing down, and I thought I'd try and step up to the plate, and yeah, put my money where my mouth is.
And what experience do you feel that you have to become an MP?
Well, I don't have a huge amount of political experience, obviously, but I think it's important for MPs to have had, normal lives, doing normal careers. I'm personally a software engineer, and there aren't many people with that profession in Parliament, and I think that's actually had a negative impact on the technology industry in the UK as a whole. We're sort of not really doing as well as we could be in the tech sphere because we don't really have any politicians that understand it. So so I would like to try and kind of put that agenda across among many other things. But yeah, I think I've got the sort of communication skills, and I've worked like over long distances before. I was working in London when I first moved to Cumbria, so I kind of know the experience of doing a job like that. I work remotely at the moment, so I work from home all the time anyway. So I have a fair amount of experience of doing that kind of work, which I think will put me in good stead for being an MP.
And what would be your top priorities for the area if you became the MP?
So I think a really important thing for Copeland is to kind of diversify the economy. I think obviously where I live in Keswick, tourism is a very big thing, and there's nothing wrong with tourism per se, but it certainly feels like there are other things that people could be doing that they're not doing. As I said, like for me, one of the big things is tech. I know pretty much on like one hand the amount of other software engineers that kind of work from home in the constituency. And I think it's a really good thing because we've already got like fibre optic broadband in most of Copeland now, except for some of the small villages and stuff. And so the barriers to entry are really quite low. The government obviously have started doing this teaching children to code in schools, and I think that's really good. But I think there's a lot more to be done there. Beyond tech, I think I'd like to see other aspects of the constituency improving. I feel like Whitehaven could be a much sort of better place than it currently is. It's a very beautiful town. It's got a lot of amazing history, but it's not on the kind of, when the tourists do come up, they don't normally venture as far as Whitehaven, and I think that's a shame because I think it's a really pretty town. And I'd like to see sort of the economy doing more things other than just sort of piling in with tourism and nuclear power.
Well, you just mentioned nuclear power, and it is one of the biggest talking points of this by-election. It's something that you say that you're opposed to. So what would you say to the thousands of people whose jobs and livelihoods rely on a strong nuclear industry in Copeland?
Well, I think the most important thing to say to begin with is that the Green Party can't close Sellafield and wouldn't want to close Sellafield. Sellafield broadly is a decommissioning site. So the thousands of jobs that it currently provides aren't going anywhere. I don't want to put anyone out of a job, and I certainly wouldn't try to. I think the bigger issue, the reason it's a talking point, is Moorside. Now, Moorside won't provide thousands and thousands of jobs. If it's going to be anything like Hinkley Point B, which is kind of similar, it's going to provide at best maybe 600 jobs in 2025. There are going to obviously be some jobs in constructing it as well, but I think there are better things we could be doing. And I think if the nuclear industry was so good, then, for Copeland, then I would kind of question why places like Whitehaven do struggle. You've got Woodhouse Estate is among the 3% most deprived wards in the UK.
If not Moorside, then what would you like to see brought in to create more jobs?
I think there are some really exciting initiatives that a politician in the constituency could get behind. I mean, particularly in terms of energy, the tidal lagoon that they're currently building in Swansea Bay, the same company are already planning to build one in West Cumbria. And that's, I think, a really exciting project. It would provide more jobs, actually, than Moorside, and it's much cheaper, so it's much more likely to happen. And then it obviously provides an attraction. It provides a sporting venue. I don't know if you've seen, but with the tidal lagoon, they want to use it for sailing and for triathlons, and they also want to have art installations, and you'll be able to walk all the way around it, and they'll have a visitors centre. So yeah, that's on the cards for West Cumbria, and I think that would be a much more exciting project to get behind than Moorside, which also might not happen anyway. Like, the company are in pretty dire straits at the moment behind Moorside, so all the other candidates are saying they're pro-nuclear, but it may not be up to them.
Now let's talk about one of the other big talking points in this by-election, which is the West Cumberland Hospital and the problems that surround it. So say if you did become Copeland's next MP, what sort of things would you be looking to try and do to try and address the problems that the West Cumberland Hospital faces?
Well, I think there's already a lot that Caroline Lucas has been doing in Parliament to protect the NHS. Caroline drafted the NHS reinstatement bill, which was backed by a whole bunch of MPs. One of the aspects of the NHS reinstatement bill is to undo the Health and Social Care Act of 2012, which is one of the many reasons that we have the problems we have now in Cumbria with the state of hospitals like West Cumberland. So I think I'd definitely be very keen to join her in the work that she's already doing. I think there's been some very constructive movements going on, and I think there's a lot the Greens can do to try and help save the services. I mean, obviously the consultant-led maternity ward at West Cumberland really does need to be saved, and I would do everything I can to ensure that happens, as well as the A&E department, which is kind of on and off the plate at the moment. But yeah.
So let's look at the national picture now. If you were Copeland's next MP, would you vote to trigger Article 50?
At the moment, I probably would not, because I think I would agree with Caroline Lucas that the situation that we're currently heading in behind Theresa May is pretty scary. I wouldn't be trying to prevent Brexit just for the sake of it, it's happening. I am very pro-European, and the Green Party is very pro-European, but we want the best possible Brexit. And right now, I don't think that's what's coming. And until we have some better guarantees about what we're actually trying to achieve, it's not something I think I would vote for. But I would not try to frustrate the process just for the sake of it. But right now, I think it's all pretty scary.
But surely voting against triggering Article 50 is just trying to frustrate the will of the people. 62% of people in Copeland voted to leave. How can you be expected to be voted in as the area's representative when you disagree with them on the biggest issue of the day?
I don't think I do disagree with them. I personally did vote to stay in the EU, but I know plenty of people that didn't. And I don't think that they have one united reason. I think there are lots of different reasons why people wanted to leave. There were certain people in the campaign, like Daniel Hannan of the Conservatives, who was very pro the UK staying in the single market, and he said that to come out would be crazy. So I think there are lots of different reasons that people voted for Brexit, and there are lots of reasonable, rational people that want to see a good Brexit and want to see the UK doing well at the end of it. And so I think in that sense I would be doing it in good conscience. I wouldn't be able to vote for Article 50 as it currently stands, because I don't think we're in a very good situation to start negotiations. But I don't think I'd be going against the will of the people, and I'd be interested to know, if I were elected, what people do specifically want, because obviously it's a black and white question to a kind of rainbow, a black and white answer to a rainbow question, I feel.
Now, in previous by-elections, the Green Party haven't fielded a candidate, and instead they formed a progressive alliance. Why hasn't that happened this time?
I think there are a couple of reasons. We certainly did consider the Progressive Alliance. That was something that was on the cards for us, and we debated it at our meeting of the local party. Personally, I think the big deal breaker for us is the fact that all of the other parties are pro-nuclear, and that kind of makes it very difficult for us to go into allegiance with anyone. I have to also say, none of the other parties came to us. No one asked us if we wanted to back them. The Lib Dems actually came out with their candidate before we'd even said anything, and said that they were going to be the only pro-European party standing in the election. So they kind of completely ignored us before we even started. And personally, I don't know if a Blairite Labour MP like we've had in Jamie Reid is any better than a Conservative. I don't really consider him a progressive. So it would be very hard for us to have done anything other than stand. We have some very solid principles, and if no one's offering us anything, and offering to compromise on anything, then we simply have to stand.